And it was truly one of those things that I was so super excited to get a breakthrough. It took me years of therapy and coaching and
Mhm.
counseling to walk back into the truth of who I was in God's eyes, who I was as a person, not what I had been told, not, and I honestly had owned that identity of
Oh
being not
yeah.
enough and, all of the stuff. So, did either one of you deal with anything like that?
Totally. And I'll let Dory piggyback on what I have to say. But when you mentioned you stayed in that situation because you were encouraged, because it's like, well, you just need to submit to him, or, type of thing. And I remember being a baby Christian and meeting with the pastor. And he's like, well, God hates divorce. And I just looked at him and I said, and this line is in the book. And so, but we're not going to give away much because we want you to go get it. And I looked at him and I said, God hates murder too, you know, and the level of just dysfunction I was in, you get to that hopeless point where you see no way out. And so, yeah, so that absolutely, I think all of us have either had family members, church families, different people expect us to stay in that place where they really don't understand the internal dynamics because people were so quiet. So we're breaking the silence today. So, Dory, what about you?
Absolutely. That was one of the things I struggled with, was because when it happened, I was actually saved in the middle of the whole process, right?
Oh,
I heard the
wow.
word of God speak. Yeah, I heard the word of God speak. And so as as you said, baby Christian or whatever, was, the church had really, talked to me about reconciliation and like, just, trying to do what they could to, keep us together. But the Lord had different plans. And I'm just so grateful that I ended up, just to keep myself safe emotionally, ended up going to another church. And that particular pastor, I ended up in a Bible study group where it was a well-rounded group of people, and they actually said that, you know no, it's okay, like it's okay, like you
Yeah,
were not meant to be treated that way, and the pastor felt the
amen.
same way. So that helped tremendously to, in the healing process, because I had such a deep shame of, I should, work harder maybe to make this happen, but God just kept leading me in the direction to safety, to keep me, away from it. Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you found some healthy, balanced people to
Mm.
say to you that it's okay to set boundaries. We're all about, if you're watching this broadcast, we're all about reconciliation. Christ is about
Mm.
reconciliation, but the reality is that if there is unhealthy trends and patterns, you have to protect yourself. That is not
Yeah.
God's design. So if someone is telling you to stay in a harmful way, we really have to take a look at that and just be willing to get the backlash from them. No, I have to protect myself.
Mm.
So, thank you for being on this with us today, Dory, because your story is important for so many people to hear because they are in that place. And it
Mm.
is a struggle, and you do feel defeated, like you're giving up, thrown in the towel. But the reality is, what you're doing is you're starting a new life of healthy boundaries to help you and the generations behind you to follow.
I know one of
Yes.
the things that was phenomenal for me is that, and this is the crazy part. Me being abused was not my reason for leaving. My children were the
Mm.
reason for leaving. Originally, my children were the reason for staying, right?